This is the Arable Leader Podcast. I'm Karl Martin, and we're exploring true, brave, kind, curious leadership, leading from your soul. It's a massive pleasure to have you with me, Craig. Craig Westoff is one of my favorite people on the planet. He's, I don't know what it is about you. Not only are you one of the most good-looking people on the planet, and that we're now related, which I get to bask in all the glory of that.
Right on. But
there's something about your spirit, the non-anxious presence of you in a room. You have something that I always want to be around. So I love any conversation we get to have, and we're going to get to have it in front of a camera now. So it's so good.
That's kind of you to say. Those are kind of words. Love you, man.
Bless you, my friend. So Craig, the conversation I want to have is, you know that with Arable, we're kind of obsessed with character leadership, or leading from a deeper place, leading from the soul. And I'm fixated on the idea that we don't teach leadership. And if we ever do teach leadership, we teach it as a catch-up, and we teach leadership skills or competences to people, and we neglect character. We neglect the deeper stuff, the heart stuff, the internal, the inward journey stuff. And so we use 4 words: true, brave, kind, and curious, as being the kind of foundational characteristics of the kind of leader that we desperately, as you would think, need in the world right now. And so I really want to focus on the word true, and getting to the root of your authentic self and who you really are in the world. And you do a lot of that kind of work with individuals. You you help people who are struggling with that kind of stuff. I'm interested in your journey. How did you become so grounded, so centered, so wise? Tell me about that stuff.
Those are big words.
Guru.
I know. I'm really convinced that life extends us an invitation and whispers, "Hey, do you want to wake up? Do you want to wake up to who you really are, to what life is? Do you want to wake up to what is, not avoid, not resist, not repress?" And so a big part of my journey in waking up, so to speak, was 10 years of clinical depression. And I was diagnosed with clinical depression, chronic anxiety. One doctor said I even had schizophrenic tendencies. And through that journey, if I could just be honest with you, I abused alcohol for 3 years, lied to my wife about it. I was so tormented, I self-harmed. I cut myself with a knife. And I could get emotional, man. Even rested my head against a rifle numerous times. Psychologists, psychiatrists, lithium, Lamictal, Lexapro effects, or on and on it goes. Community was a big healing agent for sure. But there was a specific moment where I like to say I became conscious, not fully conscious, but I woke up. I'm sitting on the couch. My wife is working in Greece at the time, and I'm just bloated with lithium. And I heard a question. It's like someone outside of me or within asked a question. And the question was, how human are you allowed to be?
Wow.
It messed me up. And I realized as the question was unfolding, my answer was already there. I'm not allowed to be fully human, meaning I'm not allowed to be myself. I have to be someone else. I have to be, or at least super Craig, right? And so I sat with that question, and I realized if I can't be fully human, I can't live life fully. I want to start with what is, and what if the reality is you and I get to be fully human? And acknowledge that and wake up to what that means on a daily basis. What does it mean for me to be fully human and fully alive as a human being?
Thank you so much for sharing that. Talk to me about what that looks like on a daily basis for you to wake up and be fully alive. Because presumably it is a rhythm and pattern for your life and for your days. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. It takes intentionality, just like culture, you know. Culture is always being developed. The question is, are you aware of it or not? But the intentionality, I realized this might sound a little odd, but I begin with a theory I have. None of us are fully in our right minds. And
explain more. I mean, it's clear, but explain more.
Right. Well, let's begin with Jungian psychology. The moment where we enter into this world, we experience 2 existential wounds: overwhelmment and insufficiency. By 18 months of age, 1 of 6 negative emotions are set as a default into our psyche: hopeless despair, sadness, anger, fear, those kinds of things. Then by age 4, now we have emotional programs for happiness ingrained in us, which are relatively unconscious messages that drive our behavior unto a space when we can feel either power, control, affection, esteem, security, and survival. And then finally at that point, I can say I'm happy. So that's all ingrained in us by age 4. Oh, let's not forget the negativity bias. And the cherry on top. I'm operating on about 5% consciousness. The rest is about 95% just subconscious. So it helps. It's a way of saying relax. Relax. You've never done life before. And my favorite grounding words, I'm only and ever learning, practicing, and becoming. So I like to wake up with a beginner's mind. I'm only and ever a student, and I say goodbye to the arrival fallacy.
Wow. So experiential curiosity. You are intentionally showing up at life as if it is an off-balance space that you're about to inherit.
Yes, yeah, well said, yeah. And then the invitation is, what do we want to create today, intentionally? How, and even more so, before that, how do I want to be present to this crazy experience that's filled with way more paradox and mystery than concrete answers? You know, that wonderful quote, I can't remember who said it. I'd rather have...
If it's good, it's me.
It's you. We'll say it's you. It's good, so it's really you. Good, I'd rather have unanswerable questions than answers that can't be questioned.
Okay, yeah. We're always looking for answers, aren't we, in everything?
Exactly.
We're wanting quick fixes to things.
Yeah, and that was a big, one of the big components of my clinical depression for 10 years. I didn't understand what was going on. I didn't understand life. I didn't know who I was to a deep, deep degree, and I just wanted quick answers. And all I had was more questions. And it's interesting, if you noticed, a key word in the word question is quest. Questions send us on a quest. But I didn't want to listen to the questions, and the questions I were asking were just filled with resentment, bitterness, and anger.
Yeah, wow. And that's one of the reasons why we use the word curiosity at the end of those four kind of life characteristics, because if you're not curious is the catalyzing force of those 4 things.
Dude.
If you're not curious, you can be true, brave, and kind, but you'll never be truer, braver, and kinder. You enter a static state, and the static state, you cannot grow from a static state. You know, you grow not in a comfort zone. I think you can rest in a comfort zone and recover in a comfort zone, but you grow in a disruptive zone, a creative zone, what the psychologists would call liminal space, the off-balance threshold space, where you're always wondering, always curious, always asking questions. I think showing up childlike, but not childish.
Right on.
Which I think is exactly how I would describe you, if I'm really honest. Like the guru of childlike, not childish.
I love that.
Because childish is binary, isn't it? It's this, not that. You're for me or against me. But childlike is wonder-filled. It is wonder-filled at the world, and we're ready for an adventure.
Yes, and I love how you brought up the human habitual tendency of binary, dualistic, either or thinking. I love the word curiosity and the wonder, because now we're invited into the power of and. And just expands things. You know, oh, this is not ideal, and I'm still here, and there's potential, and what are we going to do? What do we want to create? And it doesn't mean everything will always feel pleasant, but now you don't have to be afraid of what you're feeling. And to borrow a statement from Marie Curie, in life, there is nothing to be feared, only to be understood.
Yeah.
The curiosity point, that's the invitation. I want to understand. Not that I'm demanding answers, but I'm excited to search. I'm open to learning.
Okay, changing gears slightly. This is great. One of the things that I talk about a lot is that how someone shows up in this world and what it feels like to be the other side of them owes significantly more to their experiences of life, the choices they have made, and how they have processed those things, than it does to whether I'm an Enneagram 3, 2, 1 with a wing, and whatever it is, right? Although those things, I'm not belittling those things because they're really important as starting points. But one of the things I say often, and I want to see if this is true, is that we owe more to the injuries that we have experienced and how they have been healed than we do to the kind of personality profile that we have. In other words, I often talk about the fact that sometimes our scars, if our wounds have become scars, then they can become strengths. If they are still wounds, they bleed over everybody and they infect everyone in their life. Now, my experience of you is that here is a guy whose wounds have become scars, which have become strengths for him. And it's part of your testimony and your journey and part of your work. You always help people who have been through some of the kind of things that you've been through. Because talk to me a little bit about what you do now, how you help people, and some of that journey.
How I help people now and what I do. I am a midwife to people's souls. How do you like that?
I love it. Now explain it.
Now explain. I know. I invite people into a space so I can pay attention to their movements, the aches, the groans, the stretching, what's being formed. Let's stop and pay attention to what's being formed internally. And all that implies. What are your thoughts? What are you experiencing somatically, embodied? So I'm a spiritual director. I guide people into understanding to a greater degree their relationship with their higher power, God. I'm an emotional mental health coach, do a lot of that. And then I practice a mind-body protocol designed to alleviate negative emotional trauma. Maybe you're familiar with the book, The Body Keeps the Score. Bessel, boom. So the moment you were conceived, everything you experience in life is stored. It's all cellular memory. So I tend to people's souls. That's a simple way. And all that implies. Mind, to me, soul is mind, will, emotion. And then teach people how, and then one more thing. Am I talking too much?
No. Okay. Keep going.
The reality that your entire being is spirit, soul, and body. Your body, your body plays an equally important role in your course in life, your mental, emotional, spiritual health. So does your soul, mind, will, and emotions. And then we could say your spirit. I'd like to say your center, your spark, right? And what touches one touches the other.
You can't separate.
No, and we increase our suffering when we do.
Okay, hold that thought. Back to Jungian psychology, ego and shadow, idealized ego, and the stuff that we bury or the stuff that is unknown to us. Presumably you spend a lot of time helping people understand or face their shadow or becoming aware of what is real about them, true about them. It might even be gold about them, but they are suppressing or pushing down. Give us some thoughts around that. How do you help someone become fully aware of who they are so they can accept that and therefore adapt to the world around them?
That's a big question.
Go. 2 minutes.
Well, you mentioned, we were ping-ponging a little with Jungian psychology. One of my favorite statements from Karl or Dr. James Hollis, one of the two, is the great pathological state of our being is denial. We're all in denial of things. And there's no shame to that. That's not an indictment. That's because we're human. Now we're back to how human are you allowed to be. And so I want to invite people into, and practice inviting people into ways to become aware. I want to help people engage in life with increased conscious emotional response, decreased unconscious emotional reflexive reaction. And so then the idea is, what's going on inside me? Well, let's pause. And what if everything you experience in life, sensations, thoughts, circumstances, fundamentally just wants to be listened to first?
Yeah.
And if I'm honest, there's a lot of stuff about me that, especially during my clinical depression years, I didn't want to listen to. I wanted to avoid it, suppress it. And so the invitation I extend to people is, let me share with you the power of silence, the power of contemplation, meditation. What if silence is the first language and everything else is just a translation?
Wow.
What if silence precedes everything that you engage with, only we aren't aware of it? Silence is a sound. Silence, I really believe, precedes everything. And I want to help people learn that language of silence. And I could put it this way: contemplation precedes action. And contemplation in Latin is contemplata, which means to see. And I like to say this, now I'll join the two. In silence, we see.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's very challenging to hold silence, though.
And that's huge. Don't miss, guys, anyone listening to this, don't miss how huge that is. A world in which the world has never gone as fast as it is right now, and will never be as slow as it is today.
Expand.
Well, the world is moving so fast. Let me try that again. The world is moving so fast, faster than it's ever moved, and will never be as slow as it is in this moment. So if we don't grasp these moments, right? And it is so noisy.
Yep.
I mean, your phone pings. People are around you. There's constant noise in the culture around. If you're not able to drown out that noise, to be able to listen to what is true for you and to what is present for you, then maybe argue you can't be fully human.
I would agree. I really, here's a theory I have. I think fundamentally at our center, we can feel the connection of our true self. I'll put it this way: deep down inside, I think you know
who you are.
I think you know. And then the challenge is this: it's being drowned out.
Yeah, all the time.
It's being numbed out, drowned out. As it's been said, the two sins of the Western world are anesthesia and amnesia.
Yeah.
And the noise and the din, where there's a lack of definition, there's distortion. Yeah. But deep down inside, and you even sit with that, man, you know.
Yeah, the inability for us to discover our own voice in all the voices that are around us, all the choices that are around us. Yeah, this is good stuff.
It's there. And then, so how do we get to that space? Yep. And now we're back to the three words that I need to situate here that really ground my soul. We are only and ever learning, practicing, and becoming. That's it. And I believe, and you could correct me if I believe practice does not make perfect. It just makes you.
Yeah.
And then
practice makes progress.
And so, okay. And so now the invitation is, are you aware of what you're practicing?
Yeah.
Because we're all practicing something all the time. And so I love inviting people into, and I don't share out of mastery. I share out of my own freaking need, man.
Yeah.
But the silence, the intentional contemplation, the moments of just learning to be. It could be a minute, it could be an hour. That's irrelevant at this point. But just the intentional practice of being with oneself, and then somehow knowing, this is enough. Yeah. I'm enough right now. There's life here. We're going to sit in silence. And I could go on and on, but
no, this is good.
I think that's a big practice.
Let's get super practical. I have a number of clients, as do you, who come to us stressed, full, noisy, no margin in life. How do you help someone who is always reacting respond? How do you help them in the moment to be able to quieten their mind, maybe quieten their soul, to be able to be aware. I mean, Jung didn't say this. This is my version of Jung. The things that you are aware of, you have choices around.
Bingo.
The things that you are unaware of control your life. In other words, you're always reacting to things, and sometimes it's not intentional, and very often it's accidental and causing collateral damage wherever you go.
Yeah.
How do you help people in those moments find a way to process the present?
Yeah. By and large, our human default, when we're experiencing stress, our human default is to think our way out.
Yeah.
We want to solve it right away. And I'd like to say, before you think your way out, breathe, feel, and be your way in.
Yeah.
So in simplicity, meet it with your body first. You're feeling something, in this context, stress.
Yeah.
I like to go even deeper. What you're saying is there's an energy here.
Yeah.
We're calling it stress. There's an energy. Well, energy just wants to be expressed.
Yeah.
So it's what I love about this, it's very simple. What would it look like to express this energy that you're feeling that we call stress?
With my body.
With your body. And you're no stranger to this, that now we're talking about breath work, box breathing, 4-7-8 breathing, nature, humming. All of those stimulate the vagus nerve and then releases a neurotransmitter that acts as a tranquilizer for the nervous system. Isn't it interesting? When we're stressed, one of the first things to go is the breathing. Becomes shallow and constricted, right? Fight or flight. So I like to put it another way, begin with the body. You can think about it later, but first let's see how much of it can be released just through expression. The two components of emotional healing are expression and release. So let's first express. And that now literally can look like anything. The breathing, drop and do 100 push-ups. My favorite is
I tend to drop and do 200.
I
don't know what's going on with you.
Check out that canvas, man. Come on. Do these results lie? That's great. The air push-up. This is.
Show everyone.
I want to show. This is my favorite. You're feeling any what we would call negative emotional sensation. You know, technically, emotions are neutral, but in this context, stress. Feeling stress. All right, that unwanted thing showed up anyway. Whatever the result didn't. You're feeling stress, and you just. That's it. And use your. I've got hair standing on end. Do you feel that?
I don't have any. But yes.
You feel,
yes. Yeah.
And we just did 3 of them.
Yeah.
But we're just releasing it. And we're breathing, we're oxygenating our brain. And so now we've released what I call a physical energetic component of stress. Now it's decreased, allayed to a degree. And now we can approach what's left intellectually, cognitively, and with an oxygenated brain.
Yeah. And the potential of a reframe.
Yeah.
Wow. It's very good. So I expect to see a whole bunch of you.
That's it.
From this moment onwards.
And I like to use my imagination to picture I'm holding this stress and it looks like arcs of energy and I'm just going to.
As long as it's not someone else on
fling it out. No, it's like a 1980s arcade battle game or whatever.
One of the things that we teach a lot is that there are 5 capitals or 5 entrustments that every human being has been gifted with. Financial capital, intellectual capital, physical capital, relational capital, and spiritual capital. And we talk about the fact that only 2 of them last forever. There are 3 that are temporary. Your financial, physical, intellectual capital will wane and will go. You are supposed to invest in all of these, but you're supposed to invest upwards. Your finances are the lowest form of capital. You're supposed to make money so that you might be healthier and smarter, so that you might build great relationships. And so ultimately, you might build a relationship with whatever you think the bigger piece is, whether that's God, the universe, or something beyond. Talk to me about your investments in this season. What are you really investing in? What's significantly important for you, and what's it gaining you?
Awareness. That's my big investment.
Okay, well that's great, but that's kind of a big theory thing.
I know.
Well, give me some practical thoughts around awareness. What does it have you doing because you're becoming more aware?
Okay, let me borrow some components from Dr. Dan Siegel, the 3 components of well-being and happiness, right? the first component is focused attention.
Mm-hmm.
What has your focus has you. So finances, friendship, occupation, spiritual, what has my focus right now?
Yeah, it has you.
What has your focus has you. Eventually you do become what you behold.
Yeah. What you behold, you become.
That's it. And we all know this. Eventually what you're really looking for, you will find.
Yeah.
And that's more of a subconscious idea. So the first component of well-being and happiness, and you could even say of success or of doing better, whatever. The second component is open awareness. And so I describe that as non-judgmental, and you have this component, curiosity. Yeah. That's open awareness, non-judgmental curiosity, observation. Don't be too quick to judge. Now we move from our habitual tendency of either or thinking, which has its place. You don't want to mystically approach a stop sign and it says stop, right? Yeah. And then we practice the power of and. This, and it expands, it invites creative curiosity. So focused attention, open awareness, and then the third component of well-being and happiness is kind intention. Kind intention. And you can see the power of that as you sit with it, with finances, with people, with faith. Right? Yeah. And that invites us into what we could call the big contemplative question. What would kindness look like this moment? Yeah. As I invest financially in this, as I spend this, as I withdraw, as I'm with this person, as I'm tending to my body, is it kind? Does the fifth beer look like kindness to my
body?
Yeah, probably. We know the answer to that, right? You might be deluded into thinking that it does, but I guarantee you it doesn't. So, focused attention, open awareness.
The problem with the fifth beer is there's no more focused attention, right?
That's right. Yeah, you're gone.
Unfocused
You're gone,
attention.
dude. It's over. But I like those components, and I hope that kind of answers
I think it's
your
brilliant.
question. And it's very simple. Like, imagine what would happen at whatever level you are in life, occupationally, financially, relationally. What would happen if you walked throughout the day pondering, what would kindness look like this moment? And not a wishy-washy. I'm talking also...
Kindness isn't niceness.
No, exactly. A kindness that speaks truth.
Yes.
Right? Jesus called the Pharisees hypocrites because he was being kind.
Yes.
They needed to know, they didn't know themselves, right?
Yeah.
He invited them to wake up.
And he came full of grace and truth.
Exactly.
Which means it's not grace unless it's truth grace.
Ooh, yeah, dude.
It's not truth unless it's grace truth, right? It's never those separation things.
Yeah. So it's not that wishy-washy stuff. Actually, it takes guts to really consider that question.
I love this whole conversation mostly because it reinforces the true, brave, kind, curious way. If we can help people, let me put it a different way. If I can become truer, more authentic, more honest and genuine, I can truly understand who I am, why I show up the way I show up, what it feels like to be the other side of me. If I can become braver, more purposeful, more focused, more resilient in this world, if I can become kinder, if I can be more empathic, understand what's going on in the room, the most important question I'm asking when I'm in a space is, how do they feel about themselves because I'm in the room? And if I can become more curious, like every day's a school day, I never stop learning, then I become the kind of leader that you can attach all leadership competencies to, and it works. It works because you don't become toxic or a victim or just dysfunctional in the way you operate. But it all starts with the journey within. That's what I love about you.
Well, thank you, and likewise, man. You hit an intriguing point tucked in there, and the idea of when you're with people and what are they receiving? Yeah. I like to put it this way: when Karl is with someone, what remains? What remains when he leaves? Yeah. I like the idea that all the other stuff is impermanent.
Yes.
But now we're back to the character part.
That's right.
That stuff remains. Yeah. That's what people remember.
Yeah. And The word character comes from the original Greek, which means, I think it best translation is as an etching of the soul.
No way.
And so it's an iron stamping tool, but I talk about being an etching of the soul. Your character is an etching of the soul. It's permanent. It's indelible. It's there.
It remains.
You leave it. It remains.
Wow, I did not know that. That's perfect, man.
Yeah.
And then you can draw questions from that. It's like, what would kindness look like this moment? What do I want to remain?
It's really now? Good.
Right?
It's really good.
What do I want to leave behind? Yeah. It's an exciting journey for sure. And be kind. That's constantly telling people, be kind to yourself, man.
It's massive. And the fact that it's a journey is really important. I know that's a overused concept and an overused phrase, but it just means you've never arrived.
Yes.
Right? In other words, I'm never plumbed the depths enough of what it really means to be me. I've never I'm centered, I'm grounded. Well, you're not if you think that's what you are, right? I'm courageous. I know my purpose. No, my purpose is dynamic. It changes. It grows. I'm kind. Well, the moment you think you're kind, you probably haven't quite got hold of it. And wisdom is always out of reach, or it's not yours, right?
Well said.
So it's always that kind of overflow of knowledge and interpretation and revelation and more, and I've not arrived and the pursuit of that wisdom is something which is, I think, been lost a little in this world. We pursue knowledge, and we pursue wealth, and we pursue fame, and we pursue quote unquote success. But if we were to pursue wisdom, a lot of those other things would come along with that thing, and it would still not be enough.
Wow, Karl, and what I hear in you sharing that so well, it's kind of like what's your vocation? What's your long-term vocation in the midst of the short-term?
Yeah.
What's your long-term intention in the midst of all the short-term intentions? And so this is really important. This is a practice of grounding, to ponder. What is your long-term intention with your life?
Yeah.
What's your true vocation of life? Mine, I'm going to tell you what mine is. It's love. That's my practice. That's my goal. My long-term intention is love in the midst of all the short-term intentions that will come and go, rise and fall, ebb and flow.
So good. Mine, 1967 Ford Bronco. So shallow.
Well, I hope you get it. That was good.
So guys, wow, Craig, thank you so much.
Love you too.
There's been so much I'm going to take away.
That's it.
So good. And thank you so much for being with me.
Let's do it again.
Yeah, let's do it.
Love you.
Thanks.
You've been watching The Arable Leader with Karl Martin. Subscribe for more episodes with great leaders. And you can also listen to The Arable Leader wherever you get your podcasts. For more resources for leading in a healthy way, visit arableco.com and check out Karl's new book, The Cave, the Road, the Table, and the Fire.